Good evening, one and all, and welcome once again to another session of Time's Ascent. I am Avik Das, and I will be moderating this session for the next 1 hour. Now, today we will be discussing about the hot career options in 2021. Not just a change of year, but this year is also expected to bring a lot of opportunities in terms of recruitment. 2021 careers will mark the growth after literally a 0 year. So it is important to be in the right place at the right time. Reports say that jobs in the domains of data science, artificial intelligence, cloud architect, management consultants, and blockchain development will be one of the most sought after jobs for this year and the years to come. To discuss this, we have with us 3 esteemed panelists who will be able to throw further light on this. There is Jisha Sharma, AI Studio Lead, Technology and Digital at consultancy firm McKinsey. Now, Jisha has led multiple global teams, solved challenging problems, transformed complex processes, and built revolutionary products. She is a curious mind who likes to challenge the status quo and brings out the best in any world, leveraging her knowledge, perseverance, communication skills, and happiness mindset. Welcome, Jisha, on the panel. Great to have you with us.
Thank you.
Next, we have Rahul Chaurasia, Associate Vice President, Head of North and East's Corporate Business at Bajaj Allianz Life Insurance. Rahul is an HR professional with almost 14 years of experience and in transforming the way corporate division is looked at. He contributed to making this corporate division team as one of the top performing channels and zones. Great to have you with us today, Rahul. Pleasure.
Thank you, Avik. Just a correction, I'm a marketing professional. Somehow it mentions HR in
I'm sorry, I'll keep that in mind. My mistake and apologies. And lastly, there is Shruti Mishra, who leads the talent acquisition in India for German sportswear company Puma. Shruti is an HR professional with more than almost 10 years of work ex in areas of manufacturing, real estate, FMCG, and retail. Welcome, Shruti, on board.
Thank you so much.
Welcome. So as we discussed before we began, that I'll be giving each one of you a couple of minutes to share your thoughts and perspectives on today's topic before we start off the question and answers. Before we start off today's discussion. Over to you, maybe Jisha, to kick it off before I take it to Rahul and then Shruti.
Sure, and I would probably introduce myself a little bit more also. I think I was born loving machines, and then as we were getting educated, this whole internet world came into play. And I was pretty clear that, okay, this is going to be my world. So I did a professional degree in software engineering, and then myself, started coding, then moved to different roles like business analysis, user experience, user researcher, product management, and now, as Avik mentioned in the beginning, leading an amazing team of AI experts. So personally, throughout the day, while it is for Careers 2021, I think I'll be speaking more about digital and AI because that's the world I'm close to. My mantra in life is actually an outcome of choices you make, maybe sometimes destiny. So I will be talking more about digital and AI and different roles and career choices in this space to help you make your career decision.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Jisha. Rahul, over to you.
So thank you, Jisha. And after listening from you, I can only tell that Bajaj Allianz probably has picked up what is your passion, and AI and digital, the technology enablement is something that we as a company have been incorporating in our line of business. And I'm very, very happy and proud to say that now Bajaj Allianz is the most tech-enabled insurance company in India. And insurance, which is predominantly seen to be not a very, very posh or a white collar job, has actually evolved now, and it has a lot of new facets to show, which I'll also be talking about, and a lot of new opportunities. I joined this company as a manual trainee in 2006, and I'm today looking at the various aspects of business for North and East India. So I'll be speaking on that. Thank you, Avik, and thank you, Jisha and Shruti, to be part of the panel.
Great, thank you, Rahul. And over to you, Shruti. Just to round this off, what do you think? If you can also share a couple of lines, your thoughts about the session, about the topic.
Great. Thank you, Avik, and thank you so much, Jisha and Rahul, for sharing your thoughts. My thoughts are very, very simple, rudimentary here. I know that the workplace has changed more than just the skill sets, and the change of workplace and the entire ecosystem of working has enabled people to develop a new set of skills. Whether you talk about meta skills, whether you talk about upskilling, reskilling, etc., etc. Now, the question has been always there that will technology kill jobs and will it aggravate inequality, or will it bring in some significant work, and will it make societies healthier and more focused? These questions have been looming ever since long times, and it's been decades that we've been mulling over these questions. Technology being enabler, or do we focus more on the emotional quotient of individuals? There will always be this balance to strike. I'm really looking forward to this discussion because I have esteemed panelists with me, and I'm sure I will gain a lot more than what I can give here. But yes, it's quite an interesting topic, quite a relevant and quite a topical one in the current scenario where last year has been a lot of humanitarian crisis, work crisis, business crisis across. And this year, we've already seen the trends upping up in terms of hiring. A lot of pent up demand from last year has been carried forward this year. And now a lot of companies, whether following the calendar year or the financial year, have started to open up their gates for hiring. So I think very relevant topic to have a conversation.
Great, perfect. Thank you so much, Shruti. We'll probably start something to do with AI and what Jisha and I were discussing the other day. Jisha, can you throw some light? What are some of those exciting career options? You have been in McKinsey now for quite a few years. You work directly in the field of AI. What are some of those career options that you probably can advise, let's say, wannabe graduates or people who are just graduating, so that they have a more clearer mindset?
Sure. And I would probably talk about the opportunities in digital and AI both, because I think it goes hand in hand. There are various job families, right? So, for example, starting with the engineering world, within the engineering world, you have various roles like a software engineer or a technical engineer, or you can be an ML engineer who's very specifically focused on machine learning and how do you productionize models. Then, there are roles, and what do these people do? I think in simple layman's terms, these people's core job is to create a shippable software, right? So whatever we want to see in whatever we see in these websites, Amazon, different software products, etc. These people literally convert it. In regular digital worlds, it's software engineers, and in AI world, you would need ML engineers too. Then there's another role within this job family of architects, right? Always needed, no matter what, AI, non-AI, you always deal with architecture. So that's another interesting one. So that's the engineering job family. Next job family is related to product management, cross product management, etc., which deals with roles like product owners, business experts, change experts, or rollout experts. Now, what like their primary focus is on vision, roadmap, strategy, ensuring that products are, launched on time, then stakeholder management. And the slightly different set of skills also, for example, communication and leadership skills are very important for this role. Then domain knowledge is pretty important. And it's also not uncommon to have business experts in this role itself, because you need a lot of business expertise. Now, what has changed in AI world within this job family again is that the role of translators has become pretty popular. So translators are people who understand AI well enough to help people know how AI can be used in business strategies. So these people can help you identify AI applications, help different business stakeholders understand, how do you use this lot of data to achieve the value in business that you're trying to achieve. Then there's this huge third job family, which is, becoming super popular, is related to data and analytics. So this job family has expertise in data science, data analytics. In general, domain expertise also is helpful here. And their core job is how do we deliver value from three things: data, data models, and analytics, right? So they have their experts in these three areas and they try to deliver business value. Apart from these, all the other roles, for example, security, ways of working, then service line and support, they still remain important, right? Because even if it's a world of AI, you're still dealing with digital and all these roles are important. So this is primarily, new roles. If I talk about specifically new roles in AI world, Then I will stick to the translator role, which is in the product family, to summarize it. Then the data scientist role, expert in analytics, mathematical models, create models for us. Then there is a data engineer. So these data engineers are specifically focused on getting data ready for the models. ML engineer. So these four are very new and hot, but other than that, all the digital skills are super important.
How do you prepare yourself for these roles, especially let's say the one that you were talking about, translators? What steps do you think students should follow, or how they should really prep themselves up so that they are able to sort of job ready or sort of skilled enough to land into these roles?
It's an excellent question, and also, it's an ethical question for companies. Also, a lot of times, companies just open the positions and hire people, while it's a huge opportunity to upskill. So for this translator role, anyone who has been in the digital world in either say product management role or, for example, in an analytics role, can plan to groom himself or herself in this role by doing a few things. First of all, there are lots of industry courses available. It's just a search away. There are very good industry courses available at no price, which help you understand the applications of AI in business. I think first we have to start with that, because AI is very unique, right? For example, natural language processing, machine learning, computer vision, all are very different techniques, and you have to understand them a little to even think about how they can be applied to your business areas. So I think, and first and foremost is just understanding, what is this AI world. Then I think the second area where people can focus on is this whole data, because data is super important. It's even said that data is the new oil, right, by Andrew Nog, who is almost considered as father of this world. So it is very important that you understand data. You are able to make data-driven decisions, while product management already demands you to do so, but this has become even more important. And you should just be very comfortable with data and how to use it further. Then third important thing is you understand the roles and the life cycle. For example, chatbots are super popular, but people forget how content is very important, and you would probably need a content expert within that role. Now, if you are in the translator role, you will be supposed to help people understand that, okay, if there's an opportunity and it can deliver value, how would you execute it? So you really need to understand the nuances of these new roles and the whole life cycle. And then again, get started with a lot of industry courses available there. If you have an opportunity, shadowing someone really helps. And then it's just about getting started.
Perfect. Great. Thank you so much, Jisha. I'll move over to Rahul. Rahul, I mean, insurance as a field, probably not always considered the most sought after. Of course, I mean, ever since the privatization happened and so many companies came into play, I mean, probably the perception has changed a bit. But we were also talking about technology and insurance, AI and insurance. How do you sort of marry these two fields into the current scenario?
So you very rightly told. I mean, till about 2000, when there was just one insurance company in India, LIC, and insurance was essentially there used to be an agent who would go to your houses, will sell insurance policies, and that was all. And that's why it was thought that if you get nowhere, you can get into an insurance company. But believe me, you have every point that Jisha was talking about, be it artificial intelligence, be it a chatbot, everything and anything is now used in BFSI domain, and especially in insurance company. Insurance companies now have very, very large technology teams. In fact, where we have our CTO of our own, we have team of the size of about 200, 250 software professionals working day, night on various capabilities that we are building. In fact, just to give you an example, right now as we speak, we have a chatbot on WhatsApp, from which you can service your entire policies that you have with Bajaj Allianz. You can integrate your claims, you can get your statements, you can do whatever you want to do. And that is precisely because the technology that Disha was talking about. When you talk about AI, when you log into our systems and you want to buy an insurance policy, now data, like second the statement, data is the new oil probably. And today, because of the data, Shruti or Jisha logs into our system and just give few details, maybe puts in a Aadhaar number or something. My AI team, my system can actually integrate and decide that what are the policies that Disha may need. And it can prompt, it can suggest that okay, this is your lifestyle and this is what you should be, and this is evolving every day. So now in the new world, in the new digital world, digital selling is becoming one very important thing for which the new generation has to be digitally equipped. They should be knowing how to use technology to their advantage. Believe me, the sales on LinkedIn, I look into corporate business. The number of leads that I get through LinkedIn or my team gets through LinkedIn is highest compared to any other mode of references that I would get. I think other thing that one need to look at, that is insurance now only about an agent? Is insurance only about the recruiting agent? No, there are multiple distribution models. We have a bank insurance model wherein bank is our partner. So bank and insurance company get into a strategic alliance, and banks through bank also you can decide this is your need. You can buy insurance products. You have different brokers which does a lot of data mapping and suggest you. So a lot of these things are done. The other aspects beyond sales in an insurance company, you have opportunities into technology, opportunity into artificial intelligence. We have a machine learning team that Tisha was talking about. We have an in-house team. HR obviously is a very important facet of a company, because BFSI is essentially is people driven. A lot of employees, maximum number of employees probably in India will be working in BFSI space, in insurance space. So HR is also a very important domain, and right now I mean, in fact, as we as Bajaj want to become one of the most aspired company to work for, and for that the role of HR becomes very important. So each and every facet is an opportunity that you have within insurance companies, and for each and every facet. In fact, insurance is a world of its own. Not because I worked for insurance company for the last 15 years. I can tell it both as an insider as well as an outsider. When I was doing my MBA from one of the good B schools in Pune, I could realize that this is sector which is sunrising, and that is proven now. Despite a lot of challenges in pandemic year, insurance sector has grown by about 45% CAGR, which is fantastic. So that is what I had to say in terms of the opportunities and of the growth that the sector has to offer.
What sort of new opportunities you think that the insurance sector can probably offer to the new age professionals? That's part one. And part two is, how are you able to leverage such new age technology into your systems? What are some of the additional, the add-ons that you are getting? Is it mainly related to sales, or is it also impacting how you underwrite and your marketing?
So yes, underwriting, marketing, both has technology has brought a lot of new facets. Like my underwriting tools now has an AI, which so right now when I am writing a term insurance policy would mean that you are buying a life insurance policy in case of a death happening, money will be given to the company. So I basis the demography, basis the pin code. Our companies, our underwriters know that this pin code is slightly riskier pin code. This pin code is slightly, and this is all because of the data mapping that we could do. So sales is just not the only thing within an insurance company. We have a lot of requirement, lot of need of new underwriters who could probably map the data, who can get deep into the data, and who can tell us what kind of new policies that we have to bring in. We recently launched a new retirement plan. Now in India as a country, I don't know if you would know that in 2003 we moved from a defined benefit to a defined contribution, which would mean that you will get your pension on whatever you contribute. So new age products are required, and this product requires a lot of research. So research is another important doing, and most of you may not know that in an insurance company you also have an opportunity to be a fund manager, because we are insurance companies put together manages about 50 lakh crores of money in India. So it is not only a mutual fund company. Insurance in itself is a very large asset management company. So this technology, the research wing, the AI team, the software team, because every day you need to develop how fast, how promptly you can underwrite, how promptly you can give a claim, how fast you can find that whether this claim is a false claim, is a fraud claim, or this is a right claim. Insurance company wants to do a one-day claim tag. How can you do that without a technology? So all these are very important things, and for this we need people from diverse backgrounds. We need software engineers, we need MBA graduates, we need plain graduates, we need people like Disha in our team to do a data research. We need key HR professional like Sudhi in our team who could decide and ensure, motivate the team to deliver, to grow, and make this as one of the best companies. So that's all facets are very important in an insurance company. Sorry, I missed your second part of your question. What was the second part of your question?
No, I was asking, how are you able to leverage these new age technology, AI, ML, data science into your products, into your operations?
Okay, so one very small example that I'll give you. So yesterday we launched a product on the long-term annuity, which is long-term payment. So we first did a research and we found that the longevity, the life expectancy has gone up in India. So in India, the earlier product used to cater to the age group up to 75 years. But we have observed that people who live in a good lifestyle are living up to 85, 90 years of age. And hence, interest rates are coming down. And hence, you need a product which can give you long-term good interest and which takes care of the need. And hence, with the help of technology, we are now able to identify people who really need it and you be able to go and approach them. So today, I have a system in place. There is an internal LMS system which generates a need basis the spending pattern, basis the uses, basis the salary, basis the lifestyle, and pushes me to say that this is the person you can approach for this specific product. So this is the, I will not be able to tell you a lot of details about it because it's an internal process. But having said that, this is helping a lot of insurance company and BFSI in the BFSI space and the banking companies to decide on which client to target and who to speak to. So this is bringing a lot of new innovation, new age innovations. Is other way. The distribution space has expanded exponentially. I mean, new age companies like a Paytm, a PhonePe, a BhimPay app, a Google Pay has also now become insurance distributors because that data is something that they have, and through them also you can now buy your insurance policies. So this is expanding every day, and with this coming in, I feel that insurance will be one of the biggest recruiters in times to come. Insurance companies.
Okay, okay, great. Thank you, Rahul.
Abhi, could I add
Shruti,
something on roles?
sorry.
Just a very quick thing on roles again, right? I think
Go ahead.
while Rahul was talking, just two very interesting roles came to my head. One is the process experts itself, which have an amazing role in industries like insurance and actually any industry where there are a lot of processes. And they have become like they have renewed importance now in this AI world. So these people are experts in business processes, and then they help people understand how can you digitize or AIfy these processes. And once you understand that, only then you can automate. And then you can use technologies like robotics process automation or intelligent process automation. So this is another role which we didn't speak about right now. And the other role is about data annotation. So data is important, as we were discussing. Now there is this net new role of people who are good in English, wherein you're looking for people who can create training data. This AI needs a lot of training data. So it is things like if you want automated summaries, there are people sitting there, who would read documents and create summaries from those documents, which can help the models learn. So just the two roles which we didn't cover so far, but net new in AI world.
Got it. I'll come back to that, Jisha, and it's pretty interesting. But let me now first move over to Shruti. Shruti, and I think I'll ask you a question that probably has been discussed over the last for the last couple of years many a times. But how do you think the HR domain is changing in terms of artificial intelligence and automation? How is your recruitment or your screening of talent getting more and more automated? What are some of the steps that you are taking?
Okay. Avik, I hope firstly no one from the HR is listening here because your statement might scare them a bit. But that's on a lighter note. I'll take a step back here and I'll talk a bit about the organizations that we have now, right? I believe in our good old B school days, we've studied about various forms of organization like a machine, like a brain, like a fluid. Those kind of models was what we studied, at least I studied when I was back in my B school. Organizations today have become more flexible and transparent, right? And we would all agree to it. 2020 just enabled it a step further. The workforce now has become increasingly multi-generational and diverse. Working from home or remote working has also given us an access to remote talent, has given us an access to diverse talent base, not just limited to a geography or to a limited skill set, but across region, across boundaries, right? So the workspaces, if I may say, have become digital, of course, have become flexible and increasingly agile. Now, what does this bring into picture? This brings in a need to modify not only our office layouts from a physical standpoint, but also our programs of benefits, our compensations, how we look at policies to accommodate the need of these new professionals or the gig workers, as we keep on listening, which are entering into the workforce. So a growing multi-generational workforce requires a more flexible and adaptable approach. And this approach has to cascade across all levels, which also means that the leadership becomes horizontal. It also becomes shared because now there is an increased collaboration on a social as well as the external piece. And there is a breakdown of the traditional hierarchical models, right? We've seen that in this entire crisis, a lot of people went out, they became the self brand ambassador and not just, brand ambassadors of an organization, etc. Went out on their own, opened their homes, opened their arms to people outside, right? Whether you're cooking meals or you're helping in delivery of essential commodities, business competitions collaborated. We saw Uber collaborating with Marico. We saw HUL collaborating with Swiggy to ensure that doorstep deliveries are done. One way to look at it is an innovative value chain which was formed. One way which I look at it is coming together to create a social impact, right? And this will not happen only if the CEO decides. It happens across all tiers, all levels, all hierarchies in the organization. Having said that, each generation now will have their own ways of working and will have their own motivational factor. And we will not be a slave to those stereotype ways of increasing productivity or inspiring loyalty, right? All these terms have gained a new name. Now, in this context, the role of HR becomes extremely important to have these different workforce come under one gamut as in an organization, and think towards a goal which is shared yet consolidated. Because your objective can be shared, you can have from a retail standpoint, for example, supply chain will have their own objectives to drive, merchandising will have their own objectives to drive, HR will have their own KPIs, KRAs, etc. As long as it all sums up to one holistic vision which drives the business towards profitability, I think we are all in a good space. Policies, conventional policies such as, let's say, code of conduct, prevention of sexual harassment at workplace. This brings a completely new facet now. How do you manage a harassment case in a digital environment when, let's say, someone's turned off the video and the other person's video is turned on? Right? In this era of machine-enabled work environment where we have so many mediums of communication, how do you make sure that what is the right approach to communicate? Right? How do you lay down the benefits program where one of your workforce is traveling, one of your workforce is a returning mother from maternity break, one of your workforce comes to office, sits in front of you for 10 hours, 12 hours, whatever is the work schedule. So that mindset of presentism also takes a break and moves into a very different space. So managing all these kind of nuances, I think HR has a huge responsibility to play, and it is not just limited to your employees and organization, but a society at large. How do you instill purpose of work in an individual? How do you make the jobs more purposeful? In between these, I believe, we've all read across various reports that a lot of women dropped out of workforce, given into managing multiple responsibilities because they were doubling into work. We also saw a lot of cases where the domestic violence was on a rise due to this situation when people were trapped in their own homes, right? A lot of mental wellness, a lot of mental agony was faced by people. How do you make sure your employees who are working, who are glued to the screen for 9 hours, who are also managing a pressure cooker in the kitchen and a pressure cooker in your email ID, how do you manage that kind of a situation? What kind of new programs or what kind of new purpose do you establish in the organization? What kind of culture do you imbibe into any new person who joins in the organization? So these are some of these ethical questions, which are faced by the HR, and the role of HR evolves just as technology is evolving. We definitely use technology in various facets, whether you talk about recruitment, where we have AI-driven ATS, which helps us in profiling and assessing candidates to help us save on our bandwidth, which was conventionally spent into sourcing screening of candidates. We use AI to understand how the mood in the organization has been, how employees are feeling. Now in retail, I'm responsible for 1,400 employees spread across various channels of various models of various formats of stores. How do I make sure that employee experience is uniform? Because once I'm able to establish an employee uniform experience, will transcends into a superior customer service, right? Somebody sitting in Patiala is facing harassment. Do you really think that person is ever going to go out of the way and do and achieve their numbers of sales? They will not, right? Because they are in a mental agony. How do I make sure I leverage these AI driven tools to ensure my employee experience is standard, which cascades into a superior customer service or a customer experience? Uh, Having said that, we have digitized a lot of L&D processes which were there. I think this is nothing new. A lot of organizations have done it. We have also been part of this entire piece where we've gamified a lot of our assessments where people feel more entrenched and they are not into interview fatigue or a learning fatigue mode. I'm not just going to use Zoom fatigue because after a while you get saturated with even the amount of learning that you have to do. Your brain will only absorb as much, right? I, so not getting into an employment fatigue, into a learning fatigue, but giving them those breaks in between, making sure they have days off. While it is an extremely packed and extremely high pressured environment, um, having having and enabling tools which helps us to boost our e-commerce sales, because this was one time when e-commerce boosted more than the brick and mortar in terms of the percentage of growth, because brick and mortar was shut down for some period of time. Even when the lockdown was lifted, it had some certain limitations, whether it's time, whether it's number of employees who could work at the store, maintaining the norms of social distancing, maintaining the safety protocols, etc. How do we maximize our revenues on the e-com channel, and again not to miss out on the consumer experience that is there? Somebody who visits a puma.com has a seamless experience as they would have experienced if you would have walked into a CP store or a 100 Road store or a Banjara Hills store or a Linking Road store, right? So we have used, and I'm not saying we are as great as a big Google or a Facebook in terms of technological tools and usage, but we are slowly getting there. We are trying and plugging in wherever opportunities we are finding to leverage technologies to improve our people connect and our customer connect.
Got it. Quite a long answer, Shruti, and I'll come back to you. But before I need to at least just once go to Rahul. Rahul, how do you, I mean, standing in 2021, how do you make a wannabe employee make him or her understand that insurance probably is not just about marketing and selling policies, but there is something more to it? What are the steps you think you would take, to attract more talented or more quality people to underwriting jobs, or let's say into reinsurance jobs, into claims processing?
So one very, very important thing that pandemic, am I audible to you? I see exhaust. Am I audible? Yeah. So one very, very important thing that I see what has happened in pandemic era, that we, the insurance company, have also understood that people can work from home and you can get deliveries while people are working from home. I mean, believe me, before 2020, if you would have asked me as a leader, I would have told it's a joke. Yeah, people cannot be doing sales while working at home. People cannot be doing underwriting while working from home. But all this has happened. We have a proven data, we have a proven record that we have grown, and as an insurance company, we have grown multifolds compared to how we would have grown in earlier years. And this makes us very, very flexible as company. So now we have working mothers also who can look for a career opportunity in insurance companies. For underwriting, you need the skills to understand the human life. You don't need to be sitting in office. That's what we know now. That is something, that's a learning that our management also had. To you need to know the basis of actuarial sciences to define a product, not the basics of 9 to 6 sitting in office. That also is done. So you need to be an expert in technology and creating a chatbot and creating an app. So while working from home, while sitting where you are, you don't need to be juggling and sitting and fighting within your office premises. Having said that, coming back to your core questions, people need to understand, and people are realizing. In fact, we schools, I speak to a lot of these schools. Now, various B schools have also understood that insurance is just not about selling. Selling is a passion. Selling is an art which some people would want to. Like, I love to interact with people. So for me, if you tell me that Rahul, get into Shruti's job or get into Disha's job, I'll say sorry. I probably may not, because that's my style. So everybody has their own inherent skills. So selling, be it a Puma or be it Disha's company, everywhere you need a salesperson to talk about their products, their processes. That is there, that is required. But processes is something which has brought a lot of changes, and flexibilities have come a lot within insurance companies. For aspiring people who have still thought that insurance is just about becoming an agent and selling insurance policy, no. Insurance is also about doing a data analysis. Insurance is also about doing a data research. Insurance is also about developing a new product which suits the requirement. Insurance is also about understanding that how can we make the services better. Insurance is also about how do we ensure that through a WhatsApp application one can get his entire services done. Through a WhatsApp application one can get his claim or his family members claim or intimate the claim. So with all this now in place, I believe that the newer generations, the younger generations, while I also feel I'm very young now, but the younger generations would have a lot of newer opportunities, and which I think my co-panelists would also agree that within BFSI domain, because you can survive by maybe few companies, brick and mortar companies not being there for some time, but a bank not being there, we have seen in 2016 how our lives have been. And insurance not being there, and a catastrophe like what happened recently in Uttarakhand or what happened in 9/11, without an insurance, it's just too hard to survive. That also the world is aware. So with all that put in place, there are a lot of opportunities with your own skill set. You can get into the technology field, you can get into a research field, you can get into equity research, you can get into debt research, you can get into whatever kind of field that you would want to get into. And I would repeat what I told in my previous answer to you, that insurance is a word in itself now, and you can have opportunity in whichever area of expertise that you want to look at. And it is also now one thing which is very clear amongst all the insurance fraternity, that people of all diverse backgrounds, people, working mother that Shruti was talking about, somebody who has a Zoom fatigue or team fatigue would still be able to work in an insurance domain, because you have a lot of flexibilities now in post-pandemic at least.
Got it. Great points, Rahul. Moving over to Jisha. Jisha, you talked about that, the jobs of translators, and how you can obviously get yourself trained in AI. There are the umpteen number of ways by which you can do that. I want to understand that if you can also throw a little more light on the translation job. That sounds interesting. And also, I mean, do you really need to be high? I mean, do you need to get into higher education to land into a great AI job? Like, do you need to do your masters? Do you need to focus on PhDs to do some core AI cutting edge jobs? What do you think?
So it's a very mixed kind of response. I do not know if higher education is, so to say, needed, but definitely there's certain specific skills which are needed. So for example, the most talked about role, data science role, right? You have to understand mathematical models, right? Statistics is important. You have to understand analytics. You have to understand computer science, and should be able to understand business. Now, I think we've moved away from the world wherein you really have to do it through big schools. However, this knowledge is needed, right? And there are various ways of getting this knowledge, but this is specific to data science role. But for other roles, right, if you have been in software industry, for example, and let me take it one by one. And if you've been playing this role of a product, a business analyst or a product manager or an analyst of any kind, then as we just spoke about, translating yourself into a translator role, you can do it pretty much on your job. Like, start reading about it, start learning about it. And a lot of these very reasonable online courses give you projects, right? And you will see that world has gone digital, right? And there are a lot of AI opportunities within whatever you're doing. And every industry wants to, make more money and value. So you will definitely find opportunities. So that's one. Then the second section is, for example, if you're in an engineering role already, right? Then This ML engineering path, again, something you can do through literally online courses itself. What is ML engineering? It is about, using these models that data scientists build and making it production ready. So there are these tools, methodologies, wherein you can get your hands dirty. And in today's world of open source and, all these tools being available, even GPT-3, right, people can test with. So you have ways of testing it and upskilling yourself. Like, while we strongly advise, I would strongly advise organizations to help people in upskilling journey, but if they're not, people can do it themselves. Then third area, like if you're close to data, right? Then this data analytics is a natural progression, or data engineering role is becoming very popular. Now, data engineers are people who get data ready in simple terms. So they deal with pipelines, etc. But in simple terms, they get data ready for this ML work. Again, something you can learn on the job. Now, apart from all this, right, if you're from a business world, again, your business knowledge doesn't go waste. So you are a business expert. Either you can get into this product management translation kind of a role by understanding AI basics, or you can be a process expert itself, as I briefly interjected and mentioned. So every business is looking into how can we deliver more value through automation, right? So to automate these processes, you need a process expert first, right, who understands these processes. So there is this whole process expert role. Then last one, again, data annotation. You need plain English knowledge, right? So if you're someone who's good in natural language, and again, I'm saying English because, that's the global language, but of course, there's so many other languages, and you need that annotation role in all the languages. So there also nothing, you just have to find the next opportunity and just get started. So long answer, I do not think you necessarily have to have an advanced course, but it depends, right? Some basic skills are needed for certain roles.
Got it. Got it. Thank you. Thank you so much, Disha. Shruti, coming back to you, I mean, right at the beginning, you talked about reskilling and upskilling. And again, those two terms that have been in use for the last few years across sectors. I totally understand it from the IT companies' point of view, but if you were to explain, how do you ensure from being a retail company, what sort of reskilling or what sort of new skills or upskillings do you expect from your employees to do, to go over to the next level? That's part one. And part two is, how do what are HR managers actually looking for while recruiting in these current times?
Okay, so when I talk about upskilling, even the technology in the footwear is also improving, right? Because with the enhanced focus on health and fitness, and even the recent times we've seen that health and fitness is a category which started to see the upside first, right? We have a lot of different technologies in terms of footwear, whether you're using a footwear for your training, you're a sneakerhead, you want to use a footwear for your evening parties. So every foot demands a different kind of a shoe or a different kind of a footwear. Similarly, when it comes to apparel, the technologies is improving. Gone are the days of 100% cotton or maybe 100% cotton plus polyester. You will have an anti-germ, antibacterial clothing. You will have a lot of focus on sustainability, how you're recycling the products, how you're having a sustainable fashion being brought into the store. So these are some of the avenues where any fashion retailer does need to upskill and keep up with what is happening in the context of the climate change, which is a global topic to speak about, or whether we talk about the reusable fabrics, or whether we talk about in terms of the current health situation, where, as I said, we have antibacterial clothing or clothing that is good for your running, which is sweat absorbent. So these are some of the new techniques, even in terms of fabrics and footwear, that one needs to learn about, which we also gave a lot of emphasis in this time when we had time at hand, the physical stores were shut down. So this is one piece of upskilling when it comes to product. The second piece of upskilling, I think Disha has spoken a lot in details about understanding the data, understanding and making sense of the data to ingrain into your strategy, whether it's a long-term or a short-term strategy, taking decisions which are data-driven, understanding the consumer trends, understanding the consumer shopping patterns, and then placing an emphasis or making a buying decision for your next season. This is also a skill set which is required. Thirdly, coming to the consumers, the attention span of people is reducing and they are highly distracted. You even talk about us. There is MS Office, there's MS Team pings, there's a WhatsApp ping, there's a phone, and again there's a webinar going on, right? 5 different modes of communication, and someone standing at the window there is waving me hi. So this is the 6th form of communication. Now, how do you juggle this kind of a attention span? Similarly, with a consumer, while they walk into the store, they already have done a research on Flipkart, Myntra, Amazon, and they're coming into your store to buy a sneaker, where they're also looking what the other shopper is buying, and also they know that it's a time for a movie, and another half an hour is what I have to spend in the store. This becomes a huge challenge or a prisoner's dilemma for any salesperson on the shop floor. With a limited attention span, how do you give them a value proposition that is in line to their need, right? How do you upskill your selling skills? Also, how do you figure out innovative avenues to skill? If you cannot come to the Puma store, how do I get Puma to reach to your doorstep? How do I leverage WhatsApp to take the consumer through a virtual store tour where they can figure out what they want to buy and also get them to place an order, right? How do I make sure that we have an initiative called Puma on the Move, where we have Puma kiosks across various societies, various housing residential societies. So how do I make sure that I engage the residential population who still has that trauma of pandemic in their mind, to come to those stores or come to those kiosks which we have set up specially for them, right? So how do you maximize sales through all these innovative ways? These are some of the innovative, creative ways that we are looking for when we are hiring individuals, because hiring is only fulfilling of the need which is there in the business, right? It is nothing different. I'm not hiring for my personal gains. So these are some of the business needs which are there, and how do I fulfill in the talent which is available in the market? So these are the creative skill set, or whether you talk about a contextual agility, learning agility is something that we are looking for when we go towards hiring at any campus or even lateral. How have you made an impact to the society at large? Were you able to demonstrate customer orientation? Were you able to demonstrate customer service in the job? Because each role has customers. HR has customers, IT person has customers, supply chain has customers. It can be internal, it can be external. So how have you demonstrated? Do you have pride in achieving? Do you have pride in the work that you have done? Are you happy about it? Have you taken calculated risk in this period of time? Did you come up with new ways to break the crisis, or to stitch your own team together while things were falling apart, right? So some of these aspects is what we look at. Not to discount the commercial acumen that somebody from a business standpoint needs to have. How does the business work? How will my role, or what the role that I am applying for, how is it going to make an impact in the P&L of the company? So these are some of the major pointers that at least I look for when I go for hiring, apart from, of course, the candidate being high on the Puma brand values.
Wonderful points, Shruti. I really, take those points. I think great points made. We are running a little short on time, so I'll probably move over to the questions that the attendees have posed. Let me see what have we got. Okay. Okay, there's something from Harpreet Singh, and he asks that what are the best career options in 2021? That's pretty straightforward, though I'm not too sure whether this can be answered in that such a straightforward manner. Who wants to have a go at this?
Oh, well,
I would want to just tell one thing to my friend Harpreet.
Sorry, go ahead.
Shisha, sorry, you were saying something.
No, I was just kidding. I was saying world has gone digital, go digital. No, just kidding.
So, right, yes, I would second you there also. But one thing which is very, very important, which we all have read about, lead mindset. So, any job that you get into, Harpreet, any job that you get into, guys, you need to have a mindset which is very. So, you have to have a founder's mindset. Every business that you're working, like when Shruti was talking or when Jisha was talking, I could feel that they could imbibe their organization inside them, and they could think like an entrepreneur themselves. It's not about whether I'm an employee or whether I'm paid a salary. It's about if you can get into the P&L of everything that you do. And P&L is just not about the money profit that I talk about. Every activity has to be result oriented. And whatever you feel the best, and whatever you feel is your skill set. Like I feel that sales is my skill set. Talking to people and making a relationship is my skill set. If Jisha feels data is her skill set, if Shruti feels people management is her skill set, if Avik feels that okay, media management is his skill set, work on that aspect, get into an opportunity. Every organization and don't think अरे ये तो insurance है, अरे ये तो McKinsey है, अरे ये तो Puma है. No, don't think like that. Think I can. If I'm a sales guy, I can be a good sales guy in Puma also. I can be a good sales guy in McKinsey also. I can be a good sales guy in Bajaj also. That's the inherent skill that I'm talking about. And think of a lead mindset. Do a Google about lead mindset. You get to know about the core mindset that I'm talking about. And that's very important to be a successful career-oriented guy in any field that you want to get into.
Yeah, I think just to build on that, right, I would totally concur. While there are so many career options, right, it's very important that we understand ourselves first. So, like, I would put it in a like 3-step process. That it's important that first of all you know your values. Then what are you looking for? Are you looking for balance? Are you looking for freedom? Are you looking for creativity? What are those core values that you're looking for? It's important for you to know that, and only you would know it. And I think second thing is understand your strengths as well as transferable skills, right? So strengths could be hard skills, soft skills, anything, as Rahul was just talking about. Like we three come with very different strengths, right? But also transferable skills like communication skills, leadership skills, which can be applied across various job families. And then start discovering your pull or your calling, because it will help you to know your strengths and understand, what values do you associate with. Then if you go discovering around whatever careers are available for you, I think it will become easier for you to now find your next gig.
Got it. Next question, I'll throw this to Jisha only, probably she would be the best. How to manage career along with professional development in the AI domain? And this comes from Priyanka Sharma.
Very good question. I think while AI is very exciting, the world is changing so rapidly. As per actually United Nations, digital technologies have advanced so rapidly compared to anything in history. Like it almost reaches 50% of the population within 2 decades, and even the technology advancements are so fast that it gets hard. Like if I talk about personally, I do spend an hour a day on learning, and usually it is 30 minutes is dedicated to something totally new, and then 30 minutes is how can I help with my own own work better. But again, everything has to be role based. For example, like if you would have some of you would have seen my LinkedIn profile. If not, as I was talking in the introductions, I wasn't a qualified AI expert, right? I haven't picked any course. I picked a course later in the game. So how did I start my own journey along with my job itself? It was just an exciting space for me. I started reading about it, trying to understand various applications and all of that. But I had a clear goal in my mind that yes, this is the space I want to enter to. So I think summarizing, first of all, it's important that you have your professional development goals. It is very easy, like our human mind works in a way that we always cater to what is urgent, but leave our big rocks, which will help us move in life aside. So it is super important. And once, this great executive coach advised me that every time you start your day in the morning, your first hour should be dedicated to your big stone, that big raw goal that you want to achieve, which is not the urgent matters of the day. So if I have to start my work day at 9, I would rather start it at 8. And no matter what happens, I would do that. So I think having that big goal in your mind very clearly, and then giving your first hour of the day to that, rest, everything will follow. It's just about a little bit of discipline.
Wonderful words, Jisha. I think the students who are hearing it get inspired from these. Moving over to the next question, it's from Priya Sinha, and she asks that how to select the best industry for oneself. Shruti, if you can take that.
See, if you're a student, I would recommend you to take in live projects across various industries, across different domains that catches your fancy, because student life is one time where you can experiment as much as you want without having the fear of failure, right? What can go wrong? Your internship will come to an end, right? Take small projects, 3 months, 4 months, 5 months projects, do it in the domain that you like, get your hands dirty, understand if this is what your calling is, so that by the end of the course, you are at least prepared to which avenue or which domain or which industry do you want to go in. Second piece, if you're not a person who's in the institute and who's not studying and who's out of college, I would recommend that, as Jisha also said, do your SWOT, do your strength, weakness, see where you lie, what is that you find it interesting, and take up a job into it. Maybe it's not your calling. After 6 months, 8 months, you realize that maybe it's not of your calling, and you might want to switch into something else which has caught your fancy. Perfectly fine to do that. In the current scenario, job hops, if you have a reasonable explanation, does not hold you back from another job. At least that doesn't happen in Puma. I don't do that. If you have an explanation why you switched, perfectly fine, as long as you are sure of why you did that. Take an experiment as much as you can in the initial phase of your career, because after a certain time there are still couple of stereotypes, but at a later stage people would want to put you in one bucket or the other. Oh, she's an AI specialist, or hey, he is a sales guy in insurance, or she's an HR in a retail sector or into Puma. All these kind of buckets will start to follow at a later stage. But if you have that kind of a bandwidth at this point, please do experiment with as many career opportunities as you can, because you never know what might strike gold at some point.
Got it.
So
And
one line I would want to add with what Shruti just told, that's a line given by my Professor M.S. Pillai, the late Professor M.S. Pillai was the director of SC Machadi, my guru. So he says, he has told this to me, and he has told this in his credo also, that don't take employment for a mere job and salary. Take employment as an opportunity to unfold and express yourself. If you can do that, you will be this most successful guy in the world, probably in your own eyes. That's all I have to say, which is his statement, and who has made career for many, Professor Pillai.
correct. The next is from Neha Sinha, and I think this can also probably be addressed by Shruti. As she says that as an HR fresher, what are the new career options to engage in?
As a HR fresher, I think you should start your career into HR first and do as many projects as you can, because now I think the focus is more on project based kind of an approach. You move from one project to the other. Get your hands dirty into recruitment, get your hands dirty into learning, get your hands dirty into comp and ben, get your hands dirty into statutory compliances. Take in small projects and see if that is what is your calling. Maybe you would like everything and at the end become an HR generalist, right? Because you will have a range of different domains within the HR. If not, you will actually find what interests you more, and you may become a subject matter expert into it. Process re-engineering can be one of the aspects. Maybe you will probably do very well as an HRIT person if that's your calling. So take in small projects, digestible projects which you can deliver, which you would also like to keep yourself engaged with, because if it's too long, probably you would not be interested to stay in the project, right? Because you are a fresher, you might not enjoy too much of failures at the beginning, but it's just an assumption. It's just an assumption. I'm sure you will probably exceed expectation in whatever you do. Get your hands dirty and then figure out where do you want to land in HR.
Okay. The next.
Avik, sorry to interject. I have a hard stop at 5. I have another meeting. If you
Probably
could,
yes, no problem, Shruti. No problem, Shruti. I mean, you can leave. I think, yeah, we are well past the time, but I'll probably have another 5 to 7 minutes. But you can obviously excuse yourself if you have another meeting to attend. But thank you so much, Shruti, in the beginning. It was great talking to you and lovely meeting you.
Great. Thank you, Avik. Thank you, Jisha. Thank you, Rahul, for your time and inviting. Thank you.
Absolutely. Bye. My pleasure. We can carry on for another 5 minutes, right? Jisha and Rahul, I think we would be done with those questions. Yeah,
fine.
Sure. The next question, or rather 2 questions from Satish Kumar and Pranav Malhotra, but both of them literally have the same question. It's asks that, how do you determine courses that help a career in data science and AI? I mean, how do you recognize those courses to upskill yourself, to get more knowledge about such courses?
So I think data science is it's a longish area of study, right? So I would suggest that you should go for a professional course. Because I think, when it is a year or 2 year long journey, it's sometimes hard, right? Unless you're super disciplined, but you will have to go for a professional course. And as you would choose for example, even a regular software engineering college or a computer science or any degree for that matter, you should follow exactly the same principles. However, for other roles in AI, as we were just discussing, it really depends on where you are in your career trajectory. If you're a beginner, right, and no matter whichever role you engage in, like we've hired generalists in past, right, and a lot of generalists do start in the product management space, or even want to have like some bit of tech orientation and then start in a tech role, like a hands-on software engineering kind of a profile, etc. I think if you already have computer science knowledge and not specifically looking into building models, right? Like there are two areas in this world also, right? One is building your own, for example, a neural network, right? A brain structure. If you really want to build something like that, I would suggest that a professional course is helpful. Again, it's not that it's not doable without a professional course, but if, say, for example, you're looking for applied AI, and you already have a professional computer science degree, then you can hit the road running. And while being on the job, you will be able to upskill yourself. Like you can try and do other things. For at least just for the data science specific profile, it's important to take a longest journey if you do not have that kind of knowledge. Vic, we can't hear you.
Rahul, if you can take the next question. This is from Bhavesh Kumar. He asks that how to get a corporate job for a non-technical graduate. What are some of the posts where the non-technical graduates can apply? How about discussing the insurance sector?
So see, as I told you that it's just not about the tech, also about the inherent skills that you carry. And I'm also a non-technical graduate for that matter. I'm a BCom graduate with my MBA. So you need to pick up from your core strength. What is the inherent strength that you have? It is not necessary to have an engineering degree all the time, or may have AI or a data science knowledge all the time. You may always do an upskilling that Shruti was talking about while you are on the job. It is first thing that you need to probably identify that what you are good at. Are you good at communication skills? Are you good at talking to people? If yes, then probably sales is a career that you may look at. Are you good? Are you a research person? Then probably you even though you are not a pure data person, you're data driven person, you can still get into research because KPOs are something which give you a lot of job opportunities. Travel, if you like traveling, travel industry will be open. So you have multiple opportunities also to probably unfold and express yourself, talk to yourself, find what you are good at, and with the kind of opportunities that India has, and India is growing at a very fast pace, and I see it growing at a much faster pace in years to come. All of us will have opportunities.
And also, just to build on to that, it's not
Yeah.
the end of the world, whatever you pick now. I think organizations have become very flexible within our own organization. I have so many examples who've started their career from HR or say finance or any other domain or even global help desk. And today, some of them are like partners in our firm, some in digital world, some in other practices. So the point I'm trying to make is don't worry too much. It's not that, as Shruti was also, Rahul also just shared, like it's about getting started. There are always paths that can take you to a different destiny. It's all about the choices you make along the way.
And to give you an example on what Visha just told, if you read a book of Steve Jobs from Pepsi to Apple. So I don't know, many of you would know that Steve Jobs was earlier employed in Pepsi, which is essentially a software drink company, and he created a company called Apple, which all of us are aware. Apple is one of the most flagship brands probably in the telecom space, in the mobile space. So you can move. There are multiple examples where people have moved, changed their career, and they become very big in the alternate area that they've chosen. Certainly read the book. Whoever has sent this question, read this book, Pepsi to Apple by Steve Jobs.
Okay. Okay. One last question from Rahat Ali, and I think this can be taken by Jisha. I mean, you have an engineering background, so he asks that what are the career opportunities for a fresher mechanical engineer?
I think Jisha is frozen.
Yeah, I
There's
think
some
so.
question.
Jisha, can you hear us? I think there is a technical glitch at her end. We'll probably have to wait for a minute or so before she's able to rejoin.
So one another very important thing that I would want to say to people who are listening, that don't have your motivation restricted to the reward induced limited motivation. I mean, okay, reward is important, growth is important, money is important. I'm not denying that. What is important also is a limitless self motivation. The moment you start thinking that your job is your own job, 1 year you may not grow, but in companies cannot ignore you for years to come, and you will get what your destiny has to give you. Don't have that excuses and escapism. Become accountable. Start taking charge. That's very important in your career choices. That is something that I have learned from my guru, and I would want each one of you to imbibe that in your own lives. That's very important.
I think that's an important point, Rahul. Take responsibility of your job. Yeah, we have Disha back. Uh, can you hear us, Disha?
Yes.
Okay. No, we are just talking about Rahul referring to taking responsibility for one's job. Not always to worry about the money or the position or the reward that comes with it. Of course, it's very important, but probably it's not the be all and the end all of your career. Uh, so, Jisha, one last question was there from Rahat Ali before we lost you, and since you come from an engineering background, if you can also talk about how kind of what sort of a job can a fresher in mechanical engineering expect?
Okay, sure. First of all, apologies. I don't know what happened with my machine. Um, I think a lot of organizations are open to hire just, engineering graduates. For example, I know people who have been who were into mechanical or electrical or even chemical engineering, and they started their career with some of these services organizations. So many organizations look for, softer skills as well. Like, for example, curiosity, ambition, presentation skills, communication skills, resilience, tenacity. So a lot of that. So it's not uncommon, for industries to hire high performers. So if you look out for, openings for freshers, many companies clearly state that professional degree from any line is okay. So I do not think there's any limitation. However, of course, right, if you're a fresher in mechanical engineering, landing into a technical expertise role or HR expertise or any kind of expertise role can't be expected. But starting level, there are a lot of roles. Like for example, in our digital world, I can see, people being open to business analysis as a role there. Or even if you want to start with a very tech-centric career, it's fine. People come and learn on the job. So I like, of course, it did give you a head start if you have a degree related to what the course is requiring. But companies are very open to hire other skills.
Perfect.
So if I'm
We'll
allowed, I
come.
have a question for Jisha, which I would want to understand if I'm allowed, and I think that will help people who are listening also. So professionals like us, Jisha, professionals, somebody like me who is essentially not an engineer and does not have an AI and machine learning background, or I mean, but this is something that I see coming every day. So what is your suggestion? Where do we imbibe this from, and what are, is there some kind of courses, digital courses available? If there anything, I know Google has all answer, but you are from the industry, so if you can probably also guide us that people like us or people who are part of who have not been exposed to technology that much, how do they imbibe technology in their own lines of business?
No, that's a great question, Rahul. I think, as we all know, right, we were saying the world has gone digital. Technology is no more a choice. So it's important that we all understand what technology brings in. So even before AI, right? Just understanding how the digital world works, what are the nuances, what are the different frameworks. For example, agile methodologies are pretty popular. So let's talk about the specific area, right? One area that everyone deals with is building products which are relevant to you, right? So you're trying to solve a certain problem and a solution to that. Now, if you're trying to build a product in general, you have to understand how product development works, what to expect. So just understanding the life cycle of an application development could be helpful, A. Then B, what does digital world entails? When we say technology, what all is it? Like I was talking about these 8 to 10 job families, but even if we take a step back, what all does a digital world entail? And you could look at, for example, what does an IT organization do? And then within that, what are the roles in families? So just understanding that. Now, stepping into the AI, world is very specific. I have a specific advice. I think everyone should just try to understand different techniques in AI world at least. Like when we say natural language processing, what does it mean? How can it help? Like all of us would have used mail, right? And for example, we have started with this automatic separation of spam. How does that work? So some of these things, not so much so from how the model works perspective, but from applications perspective. Because now, what couldn't be done earlier can be done now by a lot of these techniques, and you wouldn't know till you understand it. So one example is now AI can help you understand the natural language itself. So only if you know AI helps you there, can you think of an application. Computer vision, right? We all know how these driverless cars are being made. Now, if you have an application of something similar in your own world, unless you understand it, you wouldn't know. So taking a step back in AI world, just understanding basically how AI can help in business strategies, which is nothing different. It's understanding some of these different techniques. So just start with a very simple search. What is AI? What all techniques fall within AI? What are their business applications? That's good enough for you to get started. And then basis the area of interest and application, you could go deeper. Does that answer your question, Rahul?
Yes, Trisha, thank you very much. And for more queries, probably I'll get in touch with you separately.
Anytime.
Great, great. I think we have come to the end of the session. It's been pretty engaging, pretty enthralling, and I hope that the audience has got the answers to the question that they had posed to the panelists. Thank you so much, Jisha. Your words were really pretty. I would say inspiring and almost like hitting the bullseye. And so was Rahul's. So great to have both of you as well as Shruti, who left early. Thank you once again for joining us, and hope to see you again. And till then, enjoy your evening and have a great day.
Thank you for the
opportunity.
Thank you. Thank you.
Loved it. I love sharing the space with Rahul and Shruti. Thank you both.
This is all mine as well. Thank you very much and all the best. Both of you are rock stars. I'm all of you. Bye bye. Have a great weekend.
Bye. You too.